So if there are no common question right now in the Zoom chat or here, I think we can continue with the jamming.
Okay. Do I have to go over there?
No,
if I go over there, I'm going to have to
so.
stand behind people. Will this work from here? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The camera has you already in the focus, I guess.
Okay. So thank you, Patrick, for that very brief but very, very thorough at the same time overview of Horizon Europe. I'm going to bring it down and focus it a little bit more and give you a tiny bit more detail. Next slide, please. So as Patrick mentioned, as some of you may have heard, the Swiss situation is not ideal at the moment. Maybe I just do this for all the animation. This is going to be an interesting process. So Switzerland we're currently considered a non-associated third country, as both Patrick and Bea mentioned. However, there is not all bad news. There is some good news. So we can participate as what's called an associated partner in collaborative projects. So this applies to Pillar 2 that Patrick talked about. And for an update, basically a continued update on the status of associated partners, you can find at this link here all SERI's current information about exactly where we stand and what that means and where our negotiations are currently taking us. Next slide. So, just a brief overview. Associated partners can participate in collaborative projects. This is most of the calls, but not all, but most of the calls in Cluster 2 that I'll talk you through in a few minutes. These are called Research and Innovation Actions, RIAs. However, associated partners can't coordinate these actions. But that's not really a downside. Coordinating these projects simply means more admin work. It doesn't necessarily bring more money or more fame or anything else. It really isn't that great just to coordinate it. And at the same time, we can still lead work packages and tasks on the projects, which really is the more important work in terms of the research itself. And one of the biggest benefits of being an associated partner is that, I think Patrick mentioned, so SERI will be funding any participation in these projects. And on top of that, that means that you can request a budget that goes over what the EU recommends for these projects, because SERI is going to be talking about the budget.
So what does SERI stand for?
Sorry, did I not?
I don't know, I just don't know.
SBFI? The Secretary for Research and Education.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next slide. So I won't go into much detail. I was going to mention these different pillars of Horizon Europe, but I think you probably got that from Patrick already. We're going to focus on Pillar 2, global challenges. And as Patrick also mentioned, there's 6 different clusters in Pillar 2, all that address different global challenges we all face these days. And we are going to focus on Cluster 2, culture, creativity, and inclusive society. So each of these clusters aims to address different sustainable development goals, which is important to keep in mind. These goals are not necessarily mentioned in the details when you go online and look at the work program. These goals are not necessarily mentioned in each of the call descriptions, but it's important to keep them in mind because when you write your proposal, if you speak to these different goals, it will give you an edge up. So the sustainable development goals that Cluster 2 aims to address are quality education for all, gender equality, decent work and economic growth. I do love that one, decent work. Not entirely sure what that means. I'll use your imaginations. And reduced inequalities. Okay, and in terms of, let's get down to the nitty gritty. So the consortia, these are obviously the groups of researchers or actors, not only researchers obviously, but actors that will form the base of these projects. So for Cluster 2, for all of Pillar 2 in fact, these are the rules. The consortium has to be formed of a minimum of 3 participants. So that's 3 independent partner organizations. As Patrick mentioned, this can be NGOs, art schools. Not only everyone thinks of this as usually just universities, that's not the case. It's basically international organizations on the whole. And of these 3, 1 has to be in a member state, and then 2 others have to be in a member state or associated country. Okay, so where does this leave us as a slightly non-associated third country? Well, what this basically means is that these rules have to be fulfilled regardless of the Swiss partner. So basically, you as the Swiss partner, Swiss associated partner, would basically jump on an already formed consortium of at least the minimum of 3 members. If that makes sense. And another thing, I'm aware I talk quickly. I do try to slow it down. Just stop me if anything's not clear. Okay. All right. So in terms of the research itself, there are 3 main objectives that all the calls in Cluster 2, Culture, Creativity, and Inclusive Society, aim to address. They are the following. So first off, to strengthen European democratic values, to safeguard cultural heritage, and to promote inclusion and growth in society. Now, given the audience today, where you are all at and your backgrounds, we're going to focus on the calls that address safeguarding cultural heritage. So these objectives in Cluster 2 are addressed by 3 different destinations. I know, as Bea mentioned, Horizon Europe is a bit of a jungle. It's also a jungle in terms of the terminology. Sorry for that. A destination is basically just a group of calls in this cluster that each have a very specific goal or objective in mind. So in Cluster 2, there's 3 destinations that align with these specific objectives that I just mentioned. The first is democracy and governance. Then we have European cultural heritage and cultural and creative industries, ding, ding, ding. And then social and economic transformations. And of course, today, we will be focusing on this second destination. Okay, I've included information in my slides on these other 2 destinations, destination 1 and 3, but I think I'm just going to pass over them. I really doubt that's going to be of interest to you guys, but in case it is, you will get the slides. And in case it is, you can basically come back and ask me questions either after or during the lunch. I think that makes more sense. So let's go to destination. There we go. Okay. So destination 2, cultural heritage and cultural and creative industries. So the specific goals, again, we have to have more goals per destination. The goals of this destination 2 are to protect, conserve, restore, and repair Europe's important cultural heritage, to promote cultural heritage use as one of the substantial European resources, and to boost traditional and contemporary arts and create wider awareness of the arts. So most of the calls that you guys will probably be interested in are obviously going to speak to this last goal there, to boost awareness and the use of contemporary and traditional arts. Okay, next. Okay, so some practical information. If you go into the work program, which has all the details of all these calls, and you look up, destination 2, the calls that you'll be interested in for destination 2 all start with this little acronym there, which will, again, will be in the slides that you get, so you can just type it in and search, which will make your lives easier. There are 10 separate calls in this destination, and the EU has budgeted for each call 6 to 12 million euros, which is not a bad amount of money, which means, in practical terms, that they expect a budget of around 3 to 4 million per project. So per project that you would mount with your consortium of at least 3 other members, you can think along the lines of 3 to 4 million. At the same time, keep in mind that as an associated partner, you can bring in more on top of this 3 to 4 million. That 3 to 4 million is what the other 3 members of the consortium would be asking and requesting from the European Commission. With your SERI funding, you can bring in more on top of that. And the total number of projects to be funded per call are 1 to 3. This is depending on the call. So yes, these are just numbers, but they give you some idea that the European Commission has invested serious amounts of money into this destination alone. It's worth looking into to see if any of the topics in this might suit you.
May I just ask about the dimension? So if there's 1 to 3 projects funded per call, what do you think? How many projects are proposed? Is it like hundreds?
It totally changes. Sometimes you have as few as, say, 6.
Okay.
Then you have a success rate of 50%. Sometimes you can have, I've never seen 100, but it really does change. It can go up to easily, 40, 50 after that proposals. Okay. So it just depends on interest and the year. Okay, next please. Okay, so just to give you an idea of the topics, basically this is just a list. It's a little bit boring, I'm sorry for that. but we don't have time to go into the details of every single topic, but at least this will now give you an overview so you can get an idea of, okay, when you get the link to the work program, what are you going to go and look for? So the first topic in this destination 2, safeguarding endangered languages in Europe. Then we have the second, Europe's cultural heritage and arts, promoting our values at home and abroad. The third, role of perceptions formed by traditions, values, and beliefs in shaping European societies. Traditional crafts for the future, a new approach. Fifth, towards a competitive, fair, and sustainable European music ecosystem. Could be interesting. Increase the potential of the international competitiveness of the European filmmaking industry. 7, protection of artifacts and cultural goods from anthropogenic threats. 8, effects of climate change and natural hazards on cultural heritage and remediation. 9th, games and culture shaping our society. This is a broad one, as you would imagine. And the last one, the new European Bauhaus, shaping a greener and fairer way of life in creative and inclusive societies through architecture, design, and the arts. Another broad one. So, yeah, let's skip through. So skip this piece.
Another problem. Another problem. Ah, another broad one. Okay.
Broad one.
Sorry.
Not a problem. Not yet.
Very good.
Maybe. Okay, let's skip destination 3 information, which again will be just included in the slides after. Maybe, there we go. Okay, so these calls should be opening in January, dates to be confirmed, and the deadlines should be in April of this coming year. Next one, please. Okay, this is basically just a lot of links and bits of information for you as you start your search and potentially your consortium building. So the first one is a link for all of cluster 2 information. So here you have webinars that can be very interesting and useful for just the explanations of the topics themselves, what the commission is looking for in terms of the proposals that would address these topics, etc. Then we have also on that, we have, that's okay. We have brokerage, you'll also find information on brokerage events. So events that are designed simply to help you build your consortium. So this will be events where other people looking for partners will attend and you can make links there. Okay, then we have the EEN network, which also manages brokerage events and helps people with building consortia. I have a feeling this will be less useful for you guys than for some people because the EEN network is mostly used by small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. However, you never know, it's another option, potentially even for the film industry or something like this. This could still be an interesting link. And given that I'm not entirely sure how useful that will be for you guys, I've also mentioned here, another way that you can find partners is via your NCP, which is me. So if you contact me and ask me for the partner search form, I can send you this little form. You basically fill it out with your capabilities, your research interests, your what you would offer, what sort of calls or topics you're interested in, and I send it out to my network of NCPs or national contact points throughout Europe, and they see if anyone would match. I have to say it is the least good option because it is kind of like searching for a needle in a haystack. Sometimes it works, but it's pretty rare. It is, I think, much easier to go directly to brokerage events or to your own networks and start there. But it's an option. I'm definitely happy to do that for you. Okay, next. Okay, and then lastly, the work program. This is a joyful document. It's like 80 pages or 100 or I forget how long, and you have so many details about every call in every destination, especially destination 2, as you'll probably be interested in, but all the rest. And it is, yeah, a pain to get through. That's where you'll probably be better off asking Patrick or myself for a little bit of potentially a discussion or help going through it. But at the same time, you do need to go, once you're interested in a specific topic, you do need to go through the details. Because the details about specifically the conditions, the aims, and the objectives of each of these topics is exactly what you're going to need to include in your proposal to speak to show your evaluators that you're ready to address the specific aims and objectives that they want to address. Okay, And then just a tiny brief bit on what Patrick already mentioned as well. This KIC thing, which is basically the EIT's knowledge and innovation communities. The deadline for this call is the 24th of March. And potentially this may be more interesting for the rest of you as well, because obviously, as Bea mentioned as well, this addresses the cultural and creative sectors and industries. So not only sectors, but industries, specifically industry in these following fields: architecture, cultural heritage, design, fashion, film, music, publishing, performing arts, and video games. So it's broad. There's a lot of room for a lot of people in a lot of different domains there. There's the link for this. More importantly than the link, I will send you at the end my colleague's information. There's another NCP who is taking care of this KIC. But in any case, just to give you a very brief overview, the idea of these KICs is to, at the same time, develop innovative products and services, help start up new companies, and train a new generation of entrepreneurs. So this is not just research focused. There will obviously be some research that's carried out in these projects, but they have a range of goals, as you see here. Okay, next. And eligibility criteria, just to give you some idea. These consortium also have to be composed of a minimum of 3 partners, but they can go up to a maximum of 50 partners. So this can be a massive project. How many are in your one that you mentioned so far?
Already 20.
Already 20, yeah. Yeah, I do not want to think about organizing that. But okay. So these partner organizations have to be established in a minimum of 3 different member states. And at least 2/3 of the partner organizations have to be from different member states. Next, I think that's it. So this is Sasha, my lovely colleague who is taking care of the EIT KIC, another NCP at the Euresearch Network office. You have all her details there. You can contact her. She will be happy to help and receive your questions. And lastly, my details for Cluster 2, Culture, Creativity, and Inclusive Society. And that's it. And we can now take questions. Have a little bit of discussion, please.